Hi and welcome to Fun Swedish. Last time we did a video about how Swedish really talk, you seemed to like it a lot. And if you missed that video, you can see it here. So after we read all your comments, we noticed that there's absolutely a need to do more videos about how Swedes really talk. Many of you told us that a lot of your Swedish books about learning Swedish skip this part, making it very confusing for Swedish learners to understand when Swedes use these words. So here comes a list of 10 useful words to add to your vocabulary, so that you can follow the real Swedish, the street Swedish. Number 1. Plugga. Pluggar du svenska? A Swede will probably ask you this instead of asking you studerar du svenska? Even though both sentences are correct and means the same thing, do you study Swedish? The first version, pluggar du svenska, is more used in informal speech, in spoken Swedish. So let's practice this word again. Pluggar du svenska? Ja, jag pluggar med Fun Swedish. That's something our students can say. And if you also want to become one of our students, then you can sign up for our courses here. Moving on. Number 2. Dra hem. If a Swede say, jag drar hem nu, then it's the same thing as if they would say, jag går hem nu. Basically it means, I'm gonna go home now. So in more informal Swedish or spoken Swedish, we like to use this verb dra. Dra has many different meanings, but one of the most common meanings is to pull. So it's like we're saying, I'm pulling myself home now. Jag drar hem nu. You can hear this at the office when your Swedish colleague Anders finishes his day at work. He might say something like, jag drar hem nu, hej då. I'm going home now, goodbye. Next word, number 3. Next slang word is very common to hear, grej. This slang word, grej, is very common to hear. It means thing, and you will probably hear a Swede say any of these sentences. Vad är det för grej? What is that thing? Jag tänkte på en grej. I was thinking about something. Or, kan du skicka mig grejen på bordet? Can you give me that thing on the table? So as you can see, this word grej kind of means thing, and in some situations it means something, but it's basically when you're referring to an object or an idea. But we actually have many words to say thing in Swedish. The two most common ones is grej and sak. Sak would be the original word for thing in Swedish, but then we also have grej. And grej is actually a borrowed word from Romani, one of our minority languages in Swedish. And nowadays both are, I would say, equally used. But maybe grej is a little bit more used in spoken Swedish. We also have another word for thing, but this is more used when you talk about gadgets. And the word is pryl. While the words sak and grej can also be used for more abstract things like ideas. I was thinking something. So, before we move on, glöm inte bort en grej. Don't forget about a thing, and that is to put a like and subscribe to a video if you haven't done it yet. Next word, number 4, sådan. Sådan is the shorter word for sådan, and sådan is very common in spoken Swedish. The word sådan can have different meanings depending on the situation and the context, but in general it means one of those. And sådan, like when you go to a bakery and you're pointing to one of the pastries you want, but you don't really know how it's called. So you will probably say, jag tar en sån. I will have one of those. Sån is technically written sådan, but people say sån, and more people actually starting to write it as sån as well. The word sån is used for en ord, and sån, while the word sånt, shorter for sådant, is used for ett words. And the word såna, shorter for sådana, is used for plural. Jag tar 2 såna bakelser. I will have 2 of these pastries. So again, the use of sån, sånt and såna is normally used when you're choosing 1 or maybe 2 pastries among a bunch of other pastries. And again, if you want to learn the spoken Swedish, you will say sån instead of sådan, sånt instead of sådant, and såna instead of sådana. Next word, number 5, något. Something similar happens with our next word, något. Något is the shorter version of the word något, which means something or anything, depending on the situation. And not instead of något is more used in spoken Swedish. A Swede would, for example, say more often, vill du ha något att äta? Which means, do you want something to eat? Instead of saying, vill du ha något att äta? Or even the longer version, vill du ha någonting att äta? So if you see any of these two last phrases in any of your Swedish textbooks, then you should know that they are more common in written Swedish, while not is more common in spoken Swedish. Next word, number 6, Shaka. Many of you might know that the word for eating or eat is äta. But what many people don't know about is that we also have this word Shaka, which also means to eat. But this is more used in spoken Swedish. So you could either say, vill du äta? Do you want to eat? Or, vill du käka? Do you want to eat? Same meaning, but using the spoken Swedish, the street Swedish. Käka. This verb, käka, to eat, also exists as a noun, käk, but then it means food. So basically another way to say mat. There's a high chance that you will hear this at the office and again from your colleague Anders, maybe before lunch. So instead of saying jag ska köpa lite mat, I will go and buy some food, he might say instead jag ska gå och köpa lite käk, which means the same thing. He's gonna go and buy some food. The word käk actually comes from a body part, the jaw. In Swedish, the word for jaw is käke. So it kind of makes sense that we use this word when we're talking about food, since we need to use our jaw in order to be able to chew. So you can kind of translate this to, I need to go to buy something to chew, or do you want to chew something? Remember, Swedish is a language made of Vikings, and sometimes it sounds very caveman-like. I want something to chew. Jag vill käka något. Number 7. Makka. Another important food-related word. Vill du ha en macka? Do you want a sandwich? In Swedish we have two words for sandwich. Smörgås and Makka. It's easy to think that the differences in these two words is on how the sandwich is made. But it's actually not like that. There's actually another explanation to why we have these two different words, Makka and smörgås. Smörgås would be the original Swedish word for sandwich. But Makka is again a borrowed word, and again from Romany. And Makka became a very popular slang word in Swedish, especially when we were at home eating our sandwich. Because in general, you do use more slang when you're at home or with your friends. So that's why Makka, I would say, is a little bit more used if you're talking about a sandwich that you're making at home. While if you go to a coffee place, you might see that they wrote more smörgås when they want to sell you a sandwich. But again, this can also depend a little bit on the person. Both words are used and both words are correct. Next word, nummer 8. Next expression is jag pallar inte. After a Swede have had a lot of food, they might get this food coma, matkoma, and just want to relax on the couch. And if you ask them to do the dishes, they might answer this phrase. Jag pallar inte. Jag pallar inte kind of means I don't feel like it, I don't have the energy, I don't have the strength, or I don't have the lust. This phrase is used a lot in spoken Swedish, street Swedish. We also have the expression jag orkar inte, which means the same thing. But jag pallar inte is even more slang. So again, kan du diska? Can you do the dishes? Nej, jag pallar inte. No, I don't feel like it. This phrase is super useful if you have those days that you don't feel like doing anything. Jag pallar inte. Nummer 9. Bärs. If you're out in a bar with your Swedish friends, then they might order something that sounds like they're ordering berries. Bär. But no, what they are asking for is bärs, which is our slang word for beer. So instead of only using the word öl, you can also add the word bärs to your vocabulary. And there's also another slang word for beer, and that is bira. Bira, bärs, very, very common in spoken Swedish. Nummer 10, our last word, pissa. No, I'm not talking about pizza. I'm talking about pissa. When your Swedish friends drink too much of this bärs, then they might say to you, jag måste gå och pissa. And this is how we say, I need to go and pee. Pissa is really a slang word for our original Swedish word for pee, which is kissa. In Swedish, the most common word for peeing or to pee is kissa. So pissa is the slang word for kissa, which also means to pee. I would say that pissa is more used in street Swedish, especially if you're a little bit drunk after all those bash that you just had. So that was it for today. I hope you like this list of very common slang words that you can hear in street Swedish. Let us know in the comment section below if you heard them before or if you have any questions about them. And before you go, don't forget to put a like and subscribe to our channel if you haven't done it yet. Hej då!